Alright, so another Patreon sponsored review this time. This time, we're looking at a season of television for the first season of the Disney XD sitcom Kickin', which premiered the same year as Austin and Ally, about several months before. Austin and Ally premiered in November, this premiered in June. So about half a year, a little bit under half a year beforehand. And if there is one thing I can say about this show is that it seems like it's Austin and Ally, but the gimmick is karate and martial arts instead of songs and the internet, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different change of pace, and a lot of the character types are kind of similar but changed around a little bit. And some of the casting is also very much the same in terms of the types of characters that they were going for and whatever else. But we do have a Disney Channel vet this time on the show in Jason Earls playing the sensei of the show. So yeah, and so this season goes across 21 episodes, and we it's okay in terms of how it is, but I will get to how I would have formatted the season if I were writing the series, or if I could go back in time and talk to the showrunners and whatever else, or other writers of the season and everything. But yeah, so just gonna talk about some of the as with all the other seasonal reviews I plan to do, just going to talk about the highlights of the season. So yeah, so we start off with Wasabi Warriors, the very first episode of the series, and that gets name dropped in some of the other episodes as well. Basically, it's an introduction to the characters, and we are introduced to Milton, Jerry, and Eddie in the cafeteria at Seaford High and everything. And by the way, the place where this series takes place, or the part of the country that this series takes place in, is only name dropped, I think, once in the entire season. And that is somewhere in Pennsylvania. They do mention Pennsylvania somewhere. I don't know why they didn't set it in someplace like sunnier, like Florida or California or whatever else. It kind of seems weird to be in Pennsylvania, but okay. Especially when the series is filmed in California, and the parts of the series that take place in certain times of year specifically do not have any seasonal changes, or at least visible seasonal changes, because just like Austin and Ally, the show has the budget of a toothpick because of the fact that they don't have a lot of sets, and what they do have look very, very cheaply made. And I don't necessarily expect high budgets for a sitcom, especially a Disney sitcom. What I do expect is at least convincing sets and whatever else. There's also an episode later in the season we'll get to where they do green screen behind the sets and whatever else. And when the camera's pulled away from the characters and whatever else, they're usually okay. When the camera is not, when it's aimed at the green screen and not sideways in view, it's usually not bad. But like, you can see the green screen reflected on the characters' clothes or their bodies. In certain places, you can see the green reflecting off of them, and it's just not color corrected or anything. And it's really, really distracting and awkward. But yeah, so we start off with those three. They meet a new guy named Jack, who is new to the school and everything, and then we get introduced to the gimmick of the season, or the gimmick of the show, which, as I said, is karate and martial arts. And Jack takes on several of the guys from the Black Dragons, a competing dojo. To the ones that Milton, Jerry, and Eddie go to. And and we're also introduced to Kim, who is, I guess, Jack's main love interest for the season. It kind of comes and goes, honestly. It's barely mentioned outside of this episode or even referenced. Um, and it is really, really awkward when it does, because, like, they don't build up to it, they don't show anything. It's just weird. But yeah, so they go with that. I believe Jack might get in trouble, but I don't think so. But later on, we get introduced to the character that Jason Earls plays, who's named Rudy, at the dojo at a mall, a strip mall, I believe. And yeah, if you're not unfamiliar with Austin and Ally, they basically took a lot of the concepts that what they were planning for this show and transferred them to that show as well. Both shows take place at a mall predominantly, with some sets for the character's school and a few other places built and sometimes reused and whatever else. But yeah, unlike Austin and Ally, though, which I think had a little bit more effort put into it, the show just seems cheap. When it's not the mall set or anything, it just seems cheap. And it seems like they kind of stole a lot of the blueprints for the mall set in the show and used it for Austin and Ally, just with some minor differences. But yeah, mainly in terms of like colors and some spacing things. But yeah, it's just really weird how homogenous these Disney series get as they go on. Whereas before, you had a lot of different ideas being thrown at the wall for different Disney sitcoms. I would say before, I would say 2011, 2010, something like that. But yeah. So, yeah, we have Jack joining the Wasabi dojo and everything. And he also goes up against the Black Dragons again, I think. Because over the course of the episode, there's a lot that goes on in this episode, by the way. And it jumps around between plot points, and it feels like they smashed together like 4 or 5 episodes worth of plot that they could have easily stretched out if they wanted to and kept like a semi-serialized format. In this episode where you have Jack and the others training for the martial arts competition that's going on, I guess, against the Black Dragons. And it's really, really odd that they didn't think to stretch this out more and make it as, like, maybe a half-season kind of thing. Because, like, and I understand pilots need to show everything that they're meant to, in terms of what the show is about, what gets you to, or what appeals you to the show. But if you look at the pilot for Austin and Ally in terms of a direct comparison between Disney sitcoms that aired almost at the same time, basically, the Austin and Ally pilot is paced a little bit better. There are a few things that I think that they overstepped a little bit on, but like in terms of the believability, in terms of the time frames and certain things. But it still takes place over the course of a couple days, and they don't have to rush through the plot points, and they don't have to rush through what they intended for the storyline in that episode. And it all feels like it's just meant to engage you into the characters and the show in a much more natural way. It's somewhat slower, and Kickin' It doesn't do that in this episode. It's literally just like 4 episodes worth of plot smashed together into a 22-minute format. It's really odd. But yeah, so they train for that, and then they compete and they beat the Black Dragons and everything. And Kim is a part of the Black Dragons, but she leaves them to go to the Wasabi studio for reasons. But yeah. And you also have a part where Jack leaves the thing, and almost gets recruited by the Black Dragons, but then goes back after some weird code of honor kind of thing. It's really weird. Like I said, because of the condensed time frame and everything in this episode, they don't have a lot of time to focus on certain things, and certain developments don't really make a lot of sense or endear you to the characters that much and everything. So, yeah. So we basically have that, and Jack also gets a bow staff from the Black Dragons and everything, and yeah. So Jack, as I said, beats the Black Dragons, Kim quits, and then um they get a prize and everything, and yeah. Um which they also hard tease a romance between Kim and Jack. I don't know why. I don't even know if they become a couple at any point in this show. So it's like, it's a really weird thing, especially since they don't hint at it. It like most of the other episodes, I think just like one other episode mainly references it. Other than that, they're just seen as friends. So I don't really know. It's weird. But yeah. So basically, after a bunch of like what feel like filler episodes, we get introduced to Bobby Wasabi, who, in the universe that I guess all Disney sitcoms take place in, Bobby Wasabi was a famous karate or kung fu or whatever action movie star. Basically, kind of like a white Jackie Chan, because for some reason they couldn't get an Asian guy to play Bobby Wasabi, and it for some reason feels a little bit like cultural appropriation or just awkward. But yeah, and I don't really mean that in a completely negative way. It's just weird that they couldn't get an actual Asian guy to play Bobby Wasabi. It kind of seems like he should be. But granted, he's also from a time, in terms of the timeline placement, where that probably would have been acceptable. But yeah. So anyways, we get introduced to him. He comes to the dojo when it's I believe where it's Rudy's birthday, and Jack promises to get Bobby Wasabi because the others got Rudy some pretty good gifts. And Bobby Wasabi actually shows up, but Rudy doesn't recognize him because he doesn't look like he used to in his movies, because he gained a bit of weight. I think he just dresses in like Japanese robes or Chinese robes, whichever it is, and he grew out his hair. He just doesn't look like he used to, which is kind of understandable. But Rudy doesn't believe Jack at first, so he unintentionally beats up Bobby Wasabi, and gets fired from the store, or from the dojo, it's weird because it's just like, I would think that would be maybe a little bit understandable. Maybe Bobby would have gotten a bit of a revenge at some point. It's really weird. So literally the kids all have to break into Bobby's house to convince him to hire Rudy back and everything, while Rudy works some odd jobs around the mall. So yeah. So they break into Rudy's house. They go all over the place. There's a weird joke about there being a disco bathroom, and there's a random disco dancing man, and Kim asks, or Kim's just freaked out by what that is, even though Jack just starts dancing with the music and the guy. And then at the end of it, when they defeat all of Bobby Wasabi's ninjas, which, okay, and I think get Bobby to hire Rudy back, basically, they're like, the disco guy comes through the room, and Kim, I believe, asks, "Who was that?" And Bobby Wasabi's just like, "I don't know, but I'm glad you can see him too." Which is just like, that's a really, really weird joke to do that with. It's kind of out there. It's a very, very weird joke, but I kind of appreciate it because it can be actually pretty funny. which is weird because some of the jokes in this series, especially in the first episode, are really kind of poorly paced or just not funny. You know, what I mean by that is in the first episode, a lot of the jokes are very, very slowly timed. They're slower in timing than they should be. Like either the editing is off or the actors' deliveries of the jokes are off. And I really honestly think that they should have used either different takes or sped up the things or edited them better to make the jokes land better. Other than that, because like I think there are some jokes in there that could be funny if they were timed better. But yeah, and you can't just have the excuse of, oh, it's just a joke, why didn't you laugh? You can't have that shit. That's just not how comedy works. Comedy works on tailoring your jokes to your audience, and delivering them in a very, very funny way. And if you're not doing one or the other, or if you're not doing both, it's just not going to work, unfortunately. There are cadences to certain jokes that you really should pay attention to and work on. Otherwise, your joke's either going to fall flat, or it's going to go, it could either go really, really slow or really, really fast. You want to get your joke just right in terms of timing, especially in a sitcom where most of the jokes are word-based, so I don't really know. So, yeah. Anyways, we actually get, basically 2 different episodes involving, things I wouldn't have expected from a series like this. In the episode Kung Fu Cop, where basically Rudy stays up all night, 2 nights in a row, playing a Kung Fu Cop 77 video game based on one of Bobby Wasabi's old films, Kung Fu Cop 77, as in 1977, not, the number 77. And basically, he goes to lay down in Rudy's office when he's really tired after Milton beats him in a sparring match. And basically, who's the team scrawny nerd. And basically, and Rudy, or Jack, is the best one of them, of at least the guys. And basically, goes to lay down and everything, falls asleep while he's after he puts on the Kung Fu Cop 77 movie, and we get an homage to old kung fu movies and blaxploitation films. It's very, very weird, and I actually kind of enjoy it. I enjoy most of the episode as a result of that, because while I don't necessarily find some of the jokes funny, because again, either the timing or delivery is off, I appreciate the homage to that kind of style of filmmaking and everything. I really, really wish that they'd, in post, edited the look of the episode to look like an old film, maybe increase the grain a little bit, turn down the saturation, maybe. Try to get it that old, 60s, 70s film look, because I honestly think that it would have been a lot better if they went with the style a little bit more and really turned it up. It would have been nice. Just make it look like an old film in that way. Jack is in the spot of the rookie cop, basically. Rudy is in the place of Bobby Wasabi, and Kim is in the role of female assistant to the main characters, and they're on a case to find her pendant from her grandma and everything, which Jack saw previously because Kim showed it off earlier in the episode before he fell asleep. And they go to track it down. They find a snitch and go where the snitch tells them to and everything. And they go to where a character played by Milton is, and Milton is dressed as Iggy Pop. No, not Iggy Pop. David Bowie. Ziggy Stardust, that's what I was thinking of. David Bowie as Ziggy Stardust from the mid to late 70s. And That's actually kind of funny. They nail the look too. Like, he looks a lot like him. And this came after an episode where he was dressed and talked like Gordon Ramsay for part of it. So, yeah, I actually kind of like the dress up episodes. And we get 3 back to back. This one, the one before, and the one after, which is really nice. So he leads them to the one who is actually behind, I believe, the stealing of the pendant or necklace, whatever it is, and fight his bodyguards and then take him down and get it back and everything. So yeah. So then Jack wakes up and is, all refreshed, I guess, from his nap, and basically they find the pendant in real life because it was stolen in real life, and it somewhat has magic powers a little bit. So yeah. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Then we get the Halloween episode, Boogie Nights. Yeah, Boogie, as in what you wear when you're in a dojo, Nights. And as a Halloween episode goes, I actually thought that this was actually pretty entertaining, and it actually has an interesting thing about it. Jack, just like Ben 10 before him, is afraid of clowns, and he needs to get over his fear, basically. And he does so by fighting some of the black dragons who are dressed up as clowns and everything, who try to crash the party that they're throwing at the mall, and get them to leave them alone. So yeah, and just let the party go on. And it's actually pretty interesting, I think, in that respect. And Jack conquers his fear, and that's actually pretty good way of going about it for the most part. But yeah. So we then get several episodes later a parody of reality TV shows, specifically the more crazier ones like Survivor and whatever else, kind of like Total Drama does, but over the course of an episode, and where Bobby Wasabi starts a reality show called Wasabi Warriors, I believe. And basically, it's all 5 of the kids competing in a Survivor-style challenge match of, I guess, epic proportions, to take one another on and everything. And I think that this could have been like several episodes, like a several stretch of episodes long, because I found this more entertaining than the majority of the other episodes in this season. I think this could have been easily like 2 or 3 episodes, because when we look at it, I think that the episode runs a little bit too short in terms of its runtime to really get a lot of things that it could have done out of the way and whatever else. Kind of like like I said, the first episode was, where it had basically 4 episodes worth of plot. I think that they could have easily stretched this out a couple episodes if they wanted to, and really built on the idea of the reality show and everything. Give the kids also, that are the main target audience of the show when it was on, a little bit of something to come back to for the next episode. It would have been very good marketing, in my opinion, and very good ways of showing off the characters and everything. And you get more challenges out of it as well, and things don't seem kind of contrived, because that's one of the things when you, like, fuse episodes into multiple episodes worth of plot into one, you kind of have to skip around in terms of your plot points and story beats. So things kind of come out of nowhere, and your characters sort of adopt different personalities had they not, that they probably wouldn't have in other places, just to force along the plot and everything. Just ask Power Rangers Super Megaforce. That adapted episodes of its source material, Gokaiger, into one episode all the time. And it forced along plot points, and it really let the characters down because it didn't allow the characters to breathe properly. On top of, the pacing of that show in general just being awful. But anyways, it's just one of those things where I think they could have easily stretched this out a few episodes and really ran with the concept if they wanted to. You know, there's a Jimmy Neutron special, something Kaboom. I can't remember the name of it, but you can look it up if you want to. I really like it's a special. I really like that special because it does go with the Survivor reality show type deal, and it paces itself a lot better, and it's a lot more. It breathes a lot better and everything. And on top of that, they don't just focus on the Survivor aspects of it. You know, it is a part of the plot, but they do pace it in a way that makes it make sense. Mostly because it's one team versus another, and you know everyone wants to get out, everyone wants to be safe and everything. You know, so yeah. Like I said, if this had been 2 or 3 episodes, it would have been great, I think, or it would have been a lot better. But as it is, even though I said I was entertained by it, I just think that it could have been a lot better if it had been paced out a little bit better, like if it had been a double episode or a triple episode. So, yeah, because you have the characters competing in these challenges and everything, then you have the characters talking to the camera like they're on a reality show and everything. And the way it is, it's just, you know what to expect, but the way the episodes are, or the episode is paced, is really, really bad in terms of how everything comes up. So, yeah, but other than that, mostly enjoyable. So we get Kickin' It in China, and I was really, really confused as to why this wasn't the last episode of the season, considering it feels like a season finale, and why this wasn't a 2-parter as well. Because if we look at it, this episode could have and should have been 2 parts, because Jack gets accepted into a karate tournament in China, and basically has to compete in the Junior World Martial Arts Championships on the Great Wall of China, which I'm pretty sure has never held a karate or a martial arts championship, but whatever. And basically, he got a letter of recommendation from Rudy, who applied for him, and everyone goes to China and everything. The other guys all get onto this subplot about needing to find the other part, or the last bit of their fortune from a fortune cookie, because the fortunes came true. To go over this really quick in terms of the subplot, I think it's stupid. For one, fortune cookies are not made in China. They're not. I don't even think that they're sold in China, unless if I'm mistaken. They were invented here in America, and they're a thing that American Chinese food companies came up with as a means of just having something to have in people's orders of food. Yeah, and the fortunes are not written in China. They're just printed out at wherever the hell they're assembled. People or Chinese food places literally get them transported to them in boxes with their food. It's basically like if you get if you're ordering for your restaurant and you order like plastic cups and shit in boxes, it's basically like that, or just different supplies. It's basically like that. Only it's a food that you don't have to put in the fridge, basically. That's why they cost so cheap, too. They're very cheap to make. They're easy to produce. And it costs them literally not a lot of money to produce at least one. So they produce a ton and then transport them to Chinese food places who use them and put them in people's bags. So, yeah. So that's just really stupid in my opinion. And on top of that, the fortunes, I think they really blew their load on pretty quickly. I think that if this were allowed to be 2 parts at the very least, I think what could have happened is they had the guys initially get the fortunes. They then within the next 5 minutes, in another scene, see some of the fortunes, or the fortunes slowly come to, or become true. You know, like they do. And then they get more fortunes, and they read them, but this time it takes a little longer for the fortunes to come true. And when they're in China, that's when the fortunes come true. You know, very, very slowly, and maybe they get a little bit paranoid about the fortunes coming true and everything, you know, because it's really weird that they introduced that joke, and literally all it does is just distract and get them out of the way of the plot, which they didn't really need to do. I don't understand why that subplot was even in the episode. It's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And I think it would have been better to just cut that and have them sit in the sidelines while Jack's at the World Martial Arts, or the Junior Martial Arts tournament. You know? Just saying. But yeah, so while they're doing that, by the way, while they're trying to get to the factory that makes the fortune cookies, they get wound up in apparently marrying these Chinese girls who, you know, they get roped into being the best men of, or groomsmen, whatever, of a Chinese dude who's wanting to marry his, I guess, girlfriend, and apparently he couldn't get married to his girlfriend unless he found husbands for her sisters, and he didn't tell them that, and it's just like, oh my god, that is so fucking stupid. Like I said, this subplot didn't need to be here. It just takes up time, and it's just overall stupid. You could have easily just had them sitting in the sidelines of the championship. Just saying. So while they're doing that, Jack competes and everything with Rudy and Kim on the sidelines and everything. It's a mix of Jack competing in the tournament himself and watching other people compete. And he gets to the finals and takes on a guy known as Kai. Kai is his cousin. And Kai is also white. I don't understand. People can have half Asian cousins. Just get a half Asian, half white dude. You know? It's just like, I honestly think that Kai should have been Asian with a name like that. But yeah. But we see Kai, and Jack says that he's the only person that was able to beat him, and when he was little and did karate, he swore he would never do karate again when Kai beat him and everything. And he doesn't fight for honor and anything, and he just fights for himself and selfishly and everything. Basically shit like that. And it's just one of those honor versus no honor kind of things. So yeah, so while Jack's in the locker room, I believe, these ninjas jump him. He sees a tattoo on one of their arms, as they do, and Kai comes in and fights them off, and they run away and everything. But Jack's right wrist is unfortunately broken, I believe. He gets patched up by the doctor and gets a cast, I believe, or no, not a cast, splint, something like that, on his arm or on his wrist, and told he can't compete in the tournament the next day. I would have thought that they would have postponed the finals until Jack's wrist healed, because to have him forcibly give up, I think, is really, really dumb. You know, I think that the officials would have seen reason to postpone the tournament a few weeks to give Jack time to heal his wrists and everything. Yeah, and I gotta give it to the makeup team. They actually made him. They actually like reddened up his wrist and his arm, a bit of his arm, and a bit of his hand. And I never would have expected that, honestly, in terms of the makeup for a Disney show. And even some adult shows, uh, missed the trick on that. And it's nice to see that. Even Power Rangers stopped doing, at least a little bit of blood after Wild Force. So it's really weird. Um, so yeah, granted, also one of the first times that they've ever done blood, but still. Um, but yeah, and you can see that he's kind of internally bleeding, which yeah, just adds to the fact that he is hurt. It's a visual indicator to the audience, and I don't know why more kids shows don't do that. You don't have to do it if it's like a preschool show, but like a show for kids aged like 7 to 8 and up, I think you can easily lax the standards on that a little bit and do it better. Just saying. But yeah, because kids understand what blood is. You know, you don't have to have excessive amounts of it. You could just have them just have a little bit of blood, and I think it'd be fine. I watched stuff with blood in it all the time when I was a kid, or I just understood what blood was, and it was just a natural part of the human body, and it indicates some sort of pain or something being wrong with the body, in some way, and I wasn't traumatized by it. Some kids may be traumatized by it, but it's just like, that's why you can change the channel on TV or change whatever you're watching on a streaming service, because I did watch this on Disney XD, but yeah. And I just feel I got way sidetracked on that, but I just appreciate that being a thing. In a series with martial arts, you should probably have some blood in it a little bit in places. But yeah, where it makes sense too. But yeah, so he gives up, and Kai wins the championship by default. And but Jack sees on one of the arms of one of Kai's fellow students from his dojo a tattoo that looks exactly like the tattoo on one of the ninjas that attacked him. And he outs Kai for being a lousy no good cheater and everything. And because he says Kai was afraid that he would beat him or give him a fair fight or whatever else. So they start fighting, but Kai kind of has the upper hand for a little bit because of Jack's hurt wrist. And then Kai it's really, really kind of contrived. Kai gets flipped over the Great Wall of China. Jack helps him up, but Kai is still not grateful. He's the inconsiderate douche that he is, and basically tries to, still defeat Jack. Even though he admitted that he did try to sabotage Jack. And this is the episode where I said that the green screen was pretty apparent on the characters. It's quick, but you can see it during this fight because they're fighting outside on the Great Wall of China. And when the camera switches to angles that are placed inside the Great Wall of China to get up more close to the action, you can easily see the green screen reflected on the characters for Kai and Jack, and they didn't color correct it whatsoever, and they didn't take the time to make sure that the angles wouldn't be that bad. It's really, really odd. I think that they could have easily done it a lot better. But yeah, but Jack wins. He gets the championship. basically, the rest of the guys reunite with them, and they go back home. So, yeah. So then, we get, the second to last episode, and I'm only mentioning it because I think it's the only one of importance for the most part. And this is an episode where it's really weird because some of the episodes, in terms of order being placed on them, are weird in terms of continuity. Because some of these episodes aired out of order, and I'm thinking that they were written so that they should have been put in a certain order. And Disney sometimes likes to air things out of order. Usually for a sitcom like this, it doesn't necessarily matter, but there is one concern I have here with the continuity, and I will explain it as I go with this. The Wrath of Swann, which obviously is a reference to the Wrath of Khan, and basically Kim wants to go to the Swann's Court Cotillion with Jack, but Jack doesn't want to go. I don't blame him, but Milton and Jerry get asked to, or forced to go to the cotillion with two girls, and by, I believe, their parents or something like that. And Kim instead asks a guy named Brody, who looks a lot like Jack. Like, similar hair, similar facial features, similar body type, and all that shit. And they practice dancing and everything. But it turns out Brody is good at chopping boards, which doesn't have anything to do with karate, and I know myself, and we'll get to that shit in a second when I cover this entire season in terms of an actual critique of it as a whole. But yeah, he's good at chopping boards like Jack is, although he did 4 boards rather than Jack's 3, I believe. And they find out that he is a black dragon in training, and actually he's in initiation, and he's taking Kim to the cotillion so that the black dragons can get revenge on Kim for leaving them. Yeah. So, yeah, Jack gets there pretty much just in time for the most part, although they still manage to, I can't remember what they spray on her, but I think it's pudding? Oh, mushroom gravy. Okay, I'm just seeing the wiki page that's describing the plot of this episode. Jack takes a full blast of it, but it does hit Kim and a few other people, somewhat on purpose, somewhat not, in some cases. And basically, it also hits Brody, I believe, for a little bit, and then the Black Dragons come out, and Jack, Jerry, Milton, and Kim get ready to fight the Black Dragons again, and Brody is also on their side, betraying the Black Dragons because he sees that they're a bunch of douchebags. So, yeah. So then, they all take them down. Everybody at the cotillion gets outside and away from the action and everything. They beat them, and amends is made between Jack and Brody and everybody. But yeah. So yeah, we have all that. And interesting trivia for you guys here. I didn't think that I would actually bring this kind of trivia up. But the guy who plays Brody in this episode, Billy Unger, well, for one, he was also in Lab Rats and Lab Rats Elite Force as Chase, but also he played a young teen Nathan Drake in Uncharted 3. And I knew that there was something familiar about him as soon as I saw him, so I had to look him up. And that's why. They basically really heavily modeled teenage Nathan Drake in Uncharted 3 after him. The hair, his facial features, and his voice is exactly the same. So once I heard him speak, I'm just like, that guy sounds familiar. And lo and behold, it's young Nathan Drake from Uncharted 3. Good game. Play every Uncharted game if you have. Get a PS4, PS5 eventually when that comes out, or whatever else. And play every single Uncharted game. They're really good. They have my seal of approval. So, yeah. He was also in some other shows as well, but you basically have that. It's very, very interesting. So, yeah. So, we have all of that. And Jack asks Kim to dance in an apology after he turned her down. And they dance wildly to a track that kind of comes on in some other scenes in some of the other episodes that Kim dances to like an idiot. And yeah. So then the last episode is Rowdy Rudy, which this kind of feels like a mid-season episode or something like that. Basically, Rudy faces off against a professional wrestler named Monto Mountain. After he humiliates the guy at Falafel Phil's, one of the local restaurants in the food court of the mall, and basically, gets challenged to a match by him. Sets a horrible example for Jack, so he accepts it and goes on and everything, and wants to willingly lose to Mondo to teach the kids in his dojo a lesson and everything. But Mondo takes it too far, and he's also getting paid $5,000, so that's partly why he does it. But the kids see that Mondo takes it too far, so Jack enters the ring as well. Starts to take on Mondo's partner in the ring as Rudy's partner in the ring, and Rudy takes on Mondo again, and they defeat them and everything. So, yeah. There's a subplot, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So, yeah, because it has to do with Milton and a love interest, and I'll get to that when I get to Milton. So, I only went over like 5, maybe 6 episodes of the season, and that's only because they're the only ones that matter. Sorry, but it's true. Like, they're legitimately the only ones that matter. They're the only ones of any importance in terms of anything. Because unlike Austin and Ally, this season does try to have its cake and eat it too in terms of being a Disney sitcom, but also trying to be much more than an average Disney sitcom, which is certainly commendable, but I don't think it's executed quite right. Now, like I said, some of the episodes have several episodes worth of plot, or could have easily been multi-parters. I think that this could have been easily how this show is, separated from its kin, like Austin and Ally, which again premiered almost half a year after this show did. So yeah, the first episode, Wasabi Warriors. This had an entire half, if not a full season's worth of plot points condensed into 22 minutes. I do not get this at all, and I really think that they flew a little bit too close to the sun on this one, and easily could have, just stretched out this plot a little bit more, I actually even as a kid, I kind of appreciated more opening episodes taking their time or being a little bit more simple and easy to grab onto. Because that's also the thing that you want to do with the first episode. You want to make it simple enough and easy for the audience that you're going for to grasp onto it. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know. And it's really weird that they would have this, considering it's not called a pilot. It's called Wasabi Warriors. And they would have had to have known when they put this episode into production that Disney was going to order the entire season. So it's like, I don't really know. But yeah, you could have easily had this episode just be Jack joining the Wasabi Warriors, and then introducing the Black Dragons and everything, getting us used to the characters, getting us to know the characters and everything, and maybe setting up a rivalry that goes on the entire season. Then what you could have easily had is, in addition to some of these plots being retained, you could have had episodes what is the word I'm looking for? Built around some of the plot points within this episode. Like, you could have easily had, in the middle of the season, Jack having a falling out with the Wasabi Warriors, and with actual legitimacy to it. Or a lot of legitimacy to it. And then you could have easily had an episode or two of that falling out and everything, and then had Jack rejoin them after joining the the Black Dragons and everything. Maybe have him fight Kim in the ring, or I think ring, and everything, in a sparring match or whatever. And since through the entire season, the sensei of the Black Dragons has a kind of rivalry against Rudy, you could have easily had their rivalry extend to a match between them. Like, you could easily introduce it at the beginning of the episode, where Jack would have a falling out with them later on in the episode, and then you could have a plot twist at the end of the episode lead into the next one, where Jack is the one to be revealed as the new recruit of the Black Dragons and everything. So yeah, and also try not to have the Black Dragons come off as such major douches before you do that, because, or at least not to Jack, because it would just be a little bit unreasonable for him to do that and knowingly do that if he knew that they were douchebags, just saying. And Kim could easily, within the first few episodes, she could still be introduced, she could still have a part and whatever else, but you could have her have a rivalry with Jack a little bit, but then also have her join the Wasabi Warriors a few episodes in, after realizing the Black Dragons are a bunch of big-time douchebags, and, have a more realistic pacing and reason to why she joins up with the Wasabi Warriors and everything, and have her be the second best at fighting. Have her visibly fight on screen and be the best, or the second best behind Jack. Have her be almost as good as him, but not quite, or have her be close to the same level, but maybe Jack's a little bit better than her in some places, maybe she's a little bit better than him at some places, and they work to overcome each other's differences between them. I don't know. It's just something I can think of in terms of a proper rivalry right there, and in a proper reason for all of that, So, yeah. So then in the middle of the season, or a third of the way through the season, you have the falling out and then return of Jack, and then you have the tournaments involving the Wasabi Warriors and the Black Dragons, maybe at the halfway point, maybe 2/3 of the way through the season and everything, and then you do that. Then you have, somewhere in between or after those, you have the episodes with, I love the 70s action / blaxploitation film parody homage thing that they were doing. I like that a lot, and I think that they could have easily kept it. They could have kept the Cotillion episode as well. They could have kept some of the other episodes that are okay, like the LARPing episode and the commercial, the Boogie Nights episode as well, and then a few other episodes as well, like the ones I talked about. And they could have easily done some of the other filler episodes in between them, but also interject. This is one of the problems this series has. Interject the karate more. because we see the kids practicing karate sometimes. We do not see them practice it a lot until like 2/3 of the way through the season. And you could easily use this as a vehicle to teach kids proper life lessons, you know? Because I took karate when I was a kid. And there are several different means by which karate has in terms of its rules that it teaches people to go with, especially kids. A lot of kids love to do karate, so you could easily just go to a karate class, interview some kids, see what they understand about karate and whatever else, and then interject that into the show, and then also interview the teachers as well. But interject that into the show and make sure that your life lessons of your episodes go with life lessons of karate. I think that there could have been a good melding right there in terms of all of that, because there are several simple rules that karate teaches you. You know, mostly like treating others the way you want to be treated. Do not use karate in anything other than self-defense and whatever else, which they actually do kind of subtly use within this season. Jack doesn't throw a punch or a kick unless if it's warranted and someone else engages the fight as well, except for the one episode where that I described, the last episode of the season, which also put that at the start of the season and have it not be Jack. Have it be like Jerry or Eddie. You know, have it be one of those guys, or have it be Kim, because Jack, it's a little bit out of character for him to do that, such as his character is, which is also another thing. Give Jack a flaw. Give him a character flaw. Don't just give him a physical flaw. Give him a character flaw. This is kind of the thing. Jack is also kind of a Gary Stu. And basically that's the male version of a Mary Sue, in which case there's no problems with him that are visible. You know, and any problems that he does have come at a thing of him being, or just come at him having a physical, or how am I trying to put this? It comes at him being physically unable to overcome his opponents until he has to, in which case he doesn't really build up anything towards it. He just does it, and everything. But we need a character flaw for Jack, because sometimes he does get arrogant, sometimes he does get a little bit over his head and whatever else, but they're usually for an episode, and they usually don't stick, and they're not introduced beforehand. So I think a character flaw would be great. Austin from Austin and Ally kind of suffers from Gary Stu-itis as well, but fortunately for him, he has a few major flaws, like some fears, and the fact that he can't write music for shit, you know? And that's expressly said in the first episode and kept throughout the first season, and that's why he partners with Ally, who also has a character flaw in that she has horrible stage fright. Despite the fact that she's a very talented musician and everything, and she's very smart and everything. You know, give Jack a character flaw, because he really doesn't have one, you know? If you want him to be susceptible to bad advice or his own vices or whatever else, or arrogance or whatever else, keep that consistent within an episode and have him try to work on it as well, but have him unfortunately fall into old habits. You know, that could easily be explored in this, and it would go along very well with the karate as well. Have him overcome it as well by the end of the season. You know, have it be like Marty McFly in Back to the Future 3, where he overcomes the character trait of not liking when people call him chicken. You know, which, yes, that was forced into Back to the Futures 2 and 3, but I feel like the way that they executed it was fine after they introduced it, which was a little bit forced. But yeah, just have Jack have that character flaw. So, yeah. But then also give the other characters good shit to do and actually give them strong personalities, and not the personalities we got. At least when it comes to the other three guys. Kim is okay, I feel, for the most part. If you wanted her to have a relationship with Jack, you should easily just not force it into the first episode, completely forget it until like the second to last episode, and then just slightly interjected there where apparently she has a crush on him. It doesn't really make any sense to me why they executed it like that, because every other episode they seem to be just friends, you know? But yeah, have them slowly work on that, have them interject that into an episode. Don't just have it be forced. So, yeah. But for the other three guys, we need better and stronger characters than we have right here. And we also need better jokes for them to just give. Because Milton is the resident lanky ginger, which you also have one of those on Austin and Alley. His name is Dez, and I don't like him, but I don't mind Milton for the most part. He's actually a very nice guy. He doesn't really get into trouble. He's not a jackass like Dez, and he's more he's the resident smart guy as well. He's the resident smart person, and that's completely fine. That's a character trait all his own. But he doesn't really get to do a lot with it, unfortunately. The spotlight's not a lot on him. But I will admit, he does have the most character development in this season. He really does. What I mean by that is that I think of around the first third to half of this season, he gets a girlfriend. Julie, I believe her name is. Which, they also stole that from Ben 10, but okay. But he gets a girlfriend named Julie. They are interested in each other, and they develop crushes on each other when they see each other in science class, I believe, or math class, whichever one it was. And they want to ask each other out. Jack and Kim help them out with that, which is nice. And by the end of the episode, they're going out. Even though Rudy and the leader of the Black Dragons don't like each other. The leader of the Black Dragons is Julie's uncle, and she's staying with him, I believe, while her parents are wherever the hell they are, is what she says, and is basically her legal guardian for now. He wants to forbid her from seeing Milton, and for some reason Rudy forbids Milton from seeing her. It's like, Milton, you're not, or Rudy, you're not his father. I don't understand that whatsoever. It's just weird. That would have worked better if Milton's father was in the episode, but we don't ever see the kid's parents, so whatever. But basically, we have that. I think that could have easily been handled a little bit better, especially if it was supposed to be maybe a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, if they wanted to go for that. But yeah, he has the girlfriend, and he keeps her for basically the rest of the season, minus one episode that's really weird in terms of the placement, which is the Wrath of Swann episode. This should have easily came before that episode, in terms of timeline placement, because if we look at it as it is, apparently Milton doesn't have a girlfriend, even though he does. And it's really, really jarring, because the episode right after it, is one where Milton still has his girlfriend in Julie, and he deals with thinking she wants to kiss him rather than, something else, which is stupid, but it's whatever. And Kim tries to help Milton get over his fear of kissing a girl and everything, and accidentally does kiss him with Julie seeing and everything. And, basically just helps him overcome his fear and everything with that. And then we have that. So it's really, really weird. The Cotillion episode should have come before Milton got that date, or Eddie should have been the one to be on that date, It's really, really weird. So, yeah. So then, after they would have taken on the Black Dragons about maybe 2/3 of the way through the season, We could have easily had a 2 to 3-parter involving the trip to China for the martial arts tournament and everything, or the martial arts championships. In fact, you could easily make the showdown between the Black Dragons and the Wasabi Warriors be the setup for that, and had them go on to that, and have it be established through Rudy that that's what that is. You could have him look at a poster or something like that, or a flyer, or a a letter showing that Jack was accepted into the championship. You could have easily had something like that, and then set it up, and then have it be a 2-parter, and basically kind of have this maybe like Karate Kid, where you have, or maybe like Rocky, where you have Jack facing off against Kai, and Kai is an unhonorable or not honorable student, like he's set up to be in the episode proper, and then have shit like that be done like that, where it takes place over a 2 to 3-parter. You could also have the other kids competing in a smaller tournament that's taking place at roughly the same time for lower level students. I would just think that would be very interesting and give them something to actually do rather than having a stupid subplot. And you could easily just have a lot of fun with it. Have a lot of really cool fun with it. Like, take inspiration from fucking Dragon Ball. Like, Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, has a lot of... it has 2 tournament arcs, maybe 3. And, it has a lot of interesting comedy. It has a lot of interesting character dynamics. It has a lot of different interactions and everything. Take inspiration from Dragon Ball when it comes to that. And older kung fu movies and whatever else, or karate movies or whatever else, and set up an actual tournament. Just show it, because this could easily just be a really entertaining 2 to 3-parter. I think that would have been really, really cool. And you actually show how an actual martial arts tournament goes. And this is also the thing about the karate. The karate in this season is not handled right. I think I already said that, but it's not handled right. In terms of the kids being in the dojo, they're supposed to be wearing gis at all times. They're not just supposed to be wearing workout clothes. They're supposed to be wearing gis while they're practicing martial arts. That's also the thing. We never see them practice martial arts. We just see them spar, which is not all martial arts. You could easily show them practicing regular martial arts, and that would have been fine. I don't think parents would have had a problem with it. The series is aimed to 8 to 12-year-olds anyways, so that's around the time kids that are interested in karate would love to start doing it. I started practicing karate at 9 or 10, so it's yeah. Didn't go on too much with it, but I did do it. My brother was 2 years younger than me, so yeah, as were a few of our friends. So, it's one of those things where I don't necessarily know if Disney held them back from, doing things the way that they would have maybe wanted to do. But considering Disney also tried to really, really hamper Power Rangers, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if, that if they put a thing on Kickin it too, just saying. So yeah, you could easily have the tournament welcome Bobby Wasabi, who could have easily been introduced as this Mr. Satan type, where he's this big showboaty, showy kind of person who loves to just be adored by the people and make a big ass of himself, but loving every moment of it. It's just one of those things. I think you could have easily had him have that big boisterous personality. He kind of already has one, so it's yeah, and also give him a little bit more respect and have him be played by an Asian person. Just saying. But yeah, and also shoot the season better in terms of the continuity of the shoppers and workers, not just the main cast and some secondary cast members. This was a thing I didn't expect from Austin and Ally, but it's a thing that they did anyways. They kept a lot of the extras the same, or secondary and tertiary characters the same, so that we got a sense of familiarity as we watched the season in terms of the characters and everything that are at the mall. And I thought that was actually pretty good. In terms of keeping continuity between episodes, I think that was actually a very good move. I didn't expect that from them because I don't expect anything from even adult sitcoms. Why would I expect something from a Disney sitcom? But I liked that little touch. Unfortunately, they didn't do that here. They only kept certain cast members the same, and not all of them show up in every episode. Which I don't necessarily need secondary and tertiary characters to show up every episode, but like when you have stretches of episodes where characters don't appear for some reason, it leaves me wondering as to why you even bothered to like introduce them at all. You know, especially when they should be showing up in some episodes. It's really weird. But yeah, and that's just how I would have ran this season if I could easily talk to the writers and everything and get it to be a better season, because I see so much potential in this premise, and I see so much potential in the writing. There's good ideas to be explored here, but unfortunately they're not in the hands of the writers that could have easily brought them to life, you know? So yeah, it's just not creative enough, in my opinion. It's not creative enough for my taste. But yeah, so basically that's basically it. So to give this season a score, it's not really that good. Not a lot of the jokes really got me laughing and whatever else in terms of the regular jokes. Some of the humor was good, but it's a lot like Austin and Ally, where it's jokes that kind of catch me off guard, you know, that I didn't expect. Oh, there's also a mention of the word tool in a what is the word I'm looking for? In a manner. I'm honestly trying to think of the word I used to describe it on Twitter, but basically a bad manner, you know, like that I wouldn't have expected from this season, or the show, or a Disney show in general. Yeah, where Jerry calls a singer in one episode a tool, you know. But yeah. Oh, and yeah, give Jerry more personality than just being the dumb one and the schemer and whatever else. He had a thing with dance. Give him something like that. Make him like Zach from MMPR Season 1, where Zach did the hip-hop Aikido kind of thing, where he, he mixed his karate with dance moves. That was actually very interesting. That was actually very creative to do, to give him his own flavor and personality. Do something like that. If he likes dancing, have him mix it in with his martial arts. You know? Milton, have him go through a character arc where he gets better at being in martial arts. Give every single character a character flaw and work to build up that character flaw or work through them. You know? And they don't have to completely overcome those flaws by the end of it, you know? But they can work to achieve more than they actually did in this season. Eddie is, in my opinion, the least important character on this show. I don't know why he's here. He's just there to be the token black character of the show. He doesn't really have a personality that I like, or really care for. He is just dead weight. You know, he's just dead space. And I don't even know. You know, he's just a character that's there, and I don't really care for him. Oh yeah, have Rudy be more consistent between episodes as well, because, oof, shit, we get weird personality quirks of him that really don't add up or are consistent between episodes. It's really, really odd. And he should have been more of the honorable sensei kind of thing, you know? And his personality and performance should have been consistent between episodes in that way. And that's just all I'm saying right there, is that Rudy could easily be a better character than he is. He's not a bad character, but he's not great. And you want that in a sensei character. You want greatness in a sensei. You know? Also, he is a horrible teacher. He doesn't do shit. He doesn't do a lot that actually teaches the kids lessons. We don't see him actually teaching a karate class, and we don't see him imparting any actual genuine wisdom onto the kids most of the time. You know, he does have his heart in the right place, and he is most of the time smart enough, but I just don't understand why they wrote his character the way they did. You got Jason Earls playing him anyways, and I actually still liked him from Hannah Montana, so I don't know. But yeah, I easily think that could have been a lot better. But yeah, but to give this season a score, I would have to give it a 4 to a 4.5 maybe out of 10. It's just, the season has so many flaws. I see it had a lot of potential, and I easily think that it could have been just so much better than it was. But unfortunately, it wasn't, and I'm let down. But yeah, so I don't really have much else to say on this, so links in the description, all my shit, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one.